Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Edmonds Mom's Room podcast. I am Dr. Allison Felt, owner of Body Motion Physical Therapy, entrepreneur, mom of three, and founder of AF Wellness Coaching. That's what it's called for now. No idea what it's going to manifest into, but thank you for being here. So I founded Body Motion Physical Therapy as a pelvic expert physical therapist and started helping women through pregnancy, through fertility, through preparing for childbirth, and then recovery postpartum. And now we not only do all those things, but we also help moms through midlife so that they're thriving, operating on world class, and just having super strong, fit, healthy cores and doing the things to get the job done so that they can stay on their wellness track. And what is the number one thing that you can ingest in your body that you should prioritize and focus on to keep you optimized and keep you thriving? Can you guess what it is? It is protein. And if you are watching this on YouTube, you will see that I am wearing my fancy little jacket. It looks like a fur jacket. It's total faux fur, not real at all. But it's just so cozy and comfy, and I wanted to vibe out with you with my jacket on. So I might get a little sweaty and it might come off during the podcast, but for now, it is absolutely amazing and it's comfy. And so today we're talking all things protein, the number one nutrient that is not only gonna help you on your fertility journey, it's going to help you during pregnancy. It's going to help you during postpartum. And it's absolutely essential through midlife. Protein is so underconsumed for women. Like hands down, we don't get enough of it. Okay. So why am I dedicating this entire episode to the one part of the macronutrient that you need to have? So macronutrients include protein, fat, and carbs, okay? These are foods, all foods can be broken down to protein, carbs, and fat. And protein is so underconsumed. And one of the things that is important is when we are pregnant, if we aren't consuming enough protein, that sets us up for not having enough protein for our recovery process, which then can slow down healing, can decrease the rate at which our cores recover postpartum, decrease our ability to build muscle postpartum. During pregnancy, it's already really hard to put on muscle. It's already really hard as a female to put on muscle. We don't have as much testosterone, and our estrogen that helps us put on muscle is highly impacted when we are pregnant. And then through the postpartum experience, estrogen plummets. And therefore, it is even harder to build muscle when we are trying to regain our bodies back, right? Like build the strength back that we lost, recover the core, and just feel better in our skins and get more energy. And how do we do that? Well, we do that through building muscle. But also, how do you build muscle? You have to have protein on board. You have to have carbohydrates as well. Fats are important. So diets that just cut carbohydrates aren't ideal, right? Because then you can't even build muscle. But you have to have protein in order to build muscle. If there's one takeaway of this podcast, it is eat your darn protein. I'm going to say it time and time again. It's so important for anyone, any female, especially at any phase of the life cycle. So I can tell you that protein is important when you're in the fertility process and you're trying to optimize your body for fertility and conception. It's important when you're pregnant. Let's see what the stat is. I believe it's like 80% of, it's in my pregnancy book, but so you can get the official number in there, but it's like 50, no, it's higher than 50. It's like 60 to 80% of people are protein deficient in their third trimester during pregnancy, which then can lead over to them being deficient in the postpartum process. And protein is just absolutely essential and so underutilized. Really, you want 1 gram to 1.5 grams of your lean muscle mass. How do you know what your lean muscle mass is? Well, you can get a DEXA scan and get an idea of what your lean muscle mass is or your lean tissue mass is. Or you can just eat your body weight in protein and know that you're getting that sufficient leeway for protein. Now, a lot of people have trouble consuming protein and they have a hard time figuring out what proteins they like what proteins they need for their bodies. And protein can come in a processed form. So you can have processed protein in the form of a protein bar, in the form of a protein shake, in a form of just processed food that has protein in it. Or you can use higher quality proteins, like the protein that comes from chicken or lean meats. Vegetables also do have some protein in them. But really, like when we're talking about the amount of protein that we need for our bodies and for our lean muscle mass, you are going to want to use and derive as much high quality protein as you can. Non-fat Greek yogurt has a lot of protein, egg whites have a lot of protein, and so you got to find the sources that you enjoy. And so if you need 150 to 180 grams of protein a day or 200 grams of protein a day, that's quite a bit of servings of protein. And so we want to figure out what are you going to enjoy in order to help you achieve that, and what can be quick and easy on the go. So many of our clients are moms that they haven't been able to prioritize getting their protein in. And part of that goes back to, are we taking the time to prep our protein so we can get our protein in? How many times can I say protein in this episode? I have no idea, but just come along for the ride. And then someone can do a drinking game with their protein shake on how many times I say protein, and then they can chug every time I say it, and you will probably hit your macronutrient goal for the day. There's one for you. But really, so a lot of it goes back to like having those proteins prepped, having them ready to go. My biggest thing for what makes me successful is I have to prep I bulk prep my proteins, and it takes me about 1 hour. Super easy. I put a bunch of chicken breast tenderloins in the air fryer, put a bunch of seasoning on them. Let's calorie-free seasoning, stick it in the air fryer. I'll do like 3 or 4 pounds at a time, then take it out, let it cool. And then I will scramble up like 3 pounds of ground turkey and then let that cool. And then I just put it, once it's cool, I weigh it into freezer bags. Yesterday I used quart freezer bags and weighed out 4 ounces. And that's like, for me, I do like 4 ounces a meal. And so weighed out like my quart freezer bags of my ground turkey, my quart freezer bags of my chicken, and I'm pretty much prepped probably for like a week and a half. I might do an extra prep day in there because I'm going out of town, and so I want to be able to have my protein prepped for my trip. And so like I just have it in the freezer. And it's a grab and go situation. So when I know it's lunchtime, like that is my go-to. Like there's no energy or mental load happening that is like, what am I going to eat for lunch? Because I already have my protein. All it comes down to is like, do I want to add a tortilla for the carb, an English muffin for the carb? Do I want to throw it over a bed of lettuce and add cheese and like do it up that way? So it's like, once I have the protein, I can just build the meal to fill in the rest of my macronutrients, and I can build really fun, good recipes that way. But when the focus of your fuel is protein, having it be prepped for you is essential in your success to hit your protein goals every single day. Now, like I said earlier, everyone's going to have different protein goals, and you're going to base that off of your lean mass. And then you don't want to do super low calorie diet. So this was a really good question I got today on our wellness coaching call. Someone was like, we're all being sold these like fasts and, just do this water fast or do this juice fast or do this Prolon fast. I've done the Prolon fast before. And, or the cayenne juice fast, right? Like we've all been sold these different fasts. And she was like, of course I want to lose the quick 5 to 10. So is that a good thing to just do? And it's like, my response was actually no. I don't think that's a good thing for you to do, especially as we are trying to increase your protein to support your lean mass. Like, yes, you might lose a quick 5 to 10 pounds of water weight, and then the rest of that probably might be some muscle, might be some fat, but the reality is it's just going to come right back on. We're trying to build you up to have your basal metabolic rate be burnt like every single day. You have a good amount of muscle mass that you're burning through 2,000 calories and using those calories as your fuel every day, then that's great. And like, can we build that even higher to where you're burning through 2,200 calories a day? And Hopefully. And then we get to a point where like, okay, you want to focus now on the weight loss side of things. Well, we have adequate protein levels and we have adequate fats and carbs. And now we can just start to manipulate a little bit of these variables to help you on your fat loss journey. But if we're starting your fat loss journey at 700 calories a day, like there's not a lot of room to cut your fuel and you feel good. Like if you go that low, you are really you're risking a lot of like your hormones being messed up. You just don't want your calories to go that low because your body needs this fuel to support your muscle mass, support muscles growing, to support your brain fuel, and to keep you out of fight or flight. Like if you start to take away food and like take away the body's resources to energize itself, you're going to be in more of that fight or flight state. Your cortisol is going to spike. You're going to want to retain more of those calories to pack them in so you're ready to fight the wars. We don't want your body there. We want the body to be able to decompress. We don't want the body having to live in that fight or flight state and be worried about where the next fuel source is coming from. We want the body to trust that it's going to have the fuel and consistent fuel. And then if you decide that you want to maybe shed some pounds, then you do it very diligently. And I think, but you keep your protein elevated because you want to support the lean mass. When I think about our clients and like their recovery journeys postpartum, one of the biggest things that needs to happen is, yes, restoring your pelvic floor and getting that muscle tissue healthy and getting the abdominal wall to recoil so that the abdominal core, like the front of the core, can really recoil and turn back on. To get these muscles to do that, it needs protein. If we are living in a protein deficit, then we just cannot rebuild to support our joints. And truly, that's what I see. I see so many people that like in their 40s, they've just been protein deficient their like entire like childbearing years. And so they don't have a ton of muscle mass. So you want to know why we have such a problem with osteoporosis in females. I think this not only leads back to like us being deficient in calcium, it 100% leads back to we just do not have the muscle mass and the protein intake to build the muscles to help sustain our bone density. So bone density, just so if you're not aware, bone density is really important, and it is made essentially the more stress that the bones have, the thicker and more dense the bones are. So it's called Wolff's Law. Bones get harder and thicker and more healthy the more stress we put on them. What puts the stress on the bones are the muscles and doing anything weight bearing. So the more that the muscles build, the more they pull on the bone, the stronger they make the bone. But Wolff's Law is how you build bones. And once you build up your once you build up your muscles, then the bones can be strong. But you have women in their, 50s and 60s, they start to get diagnosed with osteopenia. And that osteopenia is bone thinning, right? And so then they might get put on some prescription medications and or told to, start doing calcium. They might be told to start lifting weights. But at the end of the day, they also need to make sure they are eating protein so that when they're lifting weights, that they can actually build muscle and support the muscle's need to grow and develop and get stronger. Now, women are not going to just like bulk up into these husky beings, right? Like it takes some serious discipline to build muscle as a female. And so you just gotta invest in the protein. And if there is just one thing that I hope that you get from this episode, it's like the importance of protein for your future self. Okay. So if we're talking about the women in their 50s and 60s getting diagnosed with osteopenia, those become the women in their 70s and 80s that end up with osteoporosis. And how do you die in America? Typically, a big part of it is you have a fall, you fracture a hip, and that kind of puts you on a downward spiral to death. But that's a very common soliloquy. And once you have a fall with a hip fracture, it's hard to come back and live after that. And so if we start having adequate protein intake, I think that's the one preventative variable that we can really start to incorporate. Like, we're already eating anyways, so if we just shift some of what we are eating, like, all the more power. And even if you're a vegetarian, it's like, okay, find the vegetarian protein powder that you like. If you're a vegetarian, like, eat more of the beans, right? Like, find some lean protein sources. Like, a lot of vegetables have protein, a lot of, beans have protein, and you can find different processed proteins if you're a vegetarian too. So, like, there are options for you. But it's such an important variable when we're looking at health and longevity, that if you aren't controlling that variable, then it's just, it's hard to be healthy. So, I hope you found this beneficial. I hope you realize that, like, if you are in the fertility process, eat your protein. If you are in your pregnancy, prioritize protein. I had some serious meat aversions when I was pregnant, and I 100% wish I prioritized my protein intake more, because if I would have prioritized protein when I was pregnant, recovery would have been a lot better. I actually believe that my prolapse maybe wouldn't have been as worse, just because the quality of my tissues would be a little bit better. There's a lot of research about collagen supporting the tissue, but collagen is not a full protein. So you really need more than just collagen. Prioritize yourself, prioritize your protein intake, make the time to have your protein prepped and available for you, and then just add in everything else wherever else it fits. But for the most part, get your protein in no matter what phase of the woman life cycle and female life cycle that you are in. We all need adequate levels of protein. So you are most likely never going to overdo it. Your body will metabolize it and turn it into whatever it needs. Most people are not getting enough protein. So eat your protein, build your muscles, live a healthy life. I'm Dr. Allison Felt. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I wish you a great big protein meal wherever you are. Take care.